Susan Robinson, and I'm the founder of Foster Art Company. Our mission is the belief that every child deserves a stable, safe, and loving home. And we create workshops for children to create art, and in turn, we raise money to help children in the foster care system. While creating foster art, I've had a lot of fun working with kids and art workshops and everything, but what's really important is to understand the foster youth themselves. That's what foster art's really all about. And I've been able to meet some extraordinary people in that journey, and one of them is the executive director of the Children's Law Center of Minnesota, Lilia Panteleeva. And Lily has been kind enough to join me right now so we can ask her some questions and we can share all the answers with all of you and get some more insight on the life of foster children and what's being done to help them. So Lilia, you're a lawyer. How long have you been a lawyer?
I've been a lawyer for about 14 years. But I immigrated to the United States in 1995 and have done some work prior to that, but in the United States for about 14 years.
Okay. And what was it to make you start working in the law field with foster children?
You know, growing up, my mother worked at a similar center where she was in charge of what we currently have in our system as a social worker. She was a police officer, but she would go to the homes, remove the kids, find them an appropriate placement, and then ensure that the parents are following through on their case plan. And she would visit the parents, she would make sure that they have the services they need, and then if appropriate, she would then bring the children back home. And so she would tell me stories about the work that she did, and really I have wanted to follow her footsteps, but life kind of made me do a little bit of a detour. Took me a little bit, a few years, and eventually I got there.
So you're the executive director of the Children's Law Center of Minnesota. Can you tell us what your role is there and what the center does?
So as the executive director of Children's Law Center, I wear many hats, as you can imagine, primarily overseeing the operations of the organization, the strategy, the vision, the program, as well as managing the budget, managing the fundraising events or efforts, recruiting volunteer attorneys to represent our child clients rather, and working closely with the board of directors. So on a daily basis, you could do numerous things, but all just to make sure that the organization operates well and has a long-term strategy and vision.
And what does the organization do for foster youth?
We are court-appointed attorneys for children who come into the foster care system because they have been removed from home, abused, neglected, abandoned. And in Minnesota, by law, children who are in foster care, who are 10 years old and older or older, are entitled to an attorney. So we represent them in their child protection proceedings, advocating for their rights, making sure that their voices are heard in court, that all stakeholders are aware of what the child's position is, in making sure that children truly have a place at the table when the decisions are made about their future.
That's fantastic. It sounds like it's actually the first step in getting their life to go on a better path.
Absolutely.
And all the lawyers do this pro bono?
Yes, all of the lawyers do this pro bono. We have approximately 300 volunteer attorneys that are actively on a case at any given time, and we represent approximately 700 children per year.
Oh,
so all of them are doing this on a pro bono basis. They are very passionate about their work. They are just tremendous and very helpful. And oftentimes they're that one stable adult for the foster care kids that don't have any family.
Lilia, what can you tell us about foster youth that the general public may not know?
I would say that one of the things that the general public should be aware of is that foster children are victims of abuse and neglect. They have done nothing wrong to be in foster care. They are kids that have hopes and dreams. They are kids that have tremendous potential, and they are our future employees, employers, neighbors, colleagues, citizens. They are our next generation, and so we need to believe in them. We need to understand that they have done nothing wrong, that there is tremendous potential, and work with these youth. We also need to understand that by being abused and neglected, they have gone through tremendous amount of trauma, and their behavior may be different from the behavior of my own kids that have not experienced any of it. And sometimes you will see a child, foster child, act out because something from their past triggers in their memory, and they just exhibit behaviors that are not traditional or not normal. Again, it goes back to the trauma. I would say that the other thing is, which is a great misconception, is that our foster care system is far from perfect, and that the public should be aware of the fact that the system doesn't necessarily take care of our foster care kids. We have a tremendous shortage of placements. We have tremendous shortage of resources, services provided that need to be provided for foster care youth. And so, because foster kids are our kids, we should all care, and we should all help, and we should all attempt to make a difference. But at the minimum, I would say we should all care.
Yes. Well, that's what we're trying to do with foster art. What do you think the three biggest challenges are for kids in the foster care system?
The biggest challenges are that when they are removed from home, remember they're coming in with trauma that sometimes is at a rate of 3 to 4 times that of a veteran coming back from Iraq. They're coming back, they're coming into the foster care system. They don't know if they're going to go back home. They don't know if they will be seeing their siblings. They don't know what the future brings. Sometimes they don't even know what's going on.
So that first separation is...
That first separation, after already being traumatized by abuse and neglect, then just imagine the scenario where a law enforcement officer comes to your home and a social worker, and you're being removed. Yeah. Oftentimes your stuff goes in a garbage bag. You may not have a bag, and then you're going, you don't know where. You don't know how long it's going to take. And then you're placed in a stranger foster home, and you're acting out, you're stressed, and then you show up in school that you've never been to before. And sometimes foster children unfortunately experience the stigma associated with them being foster cared, so they don't like to talk about it. They don't like to identify themselves as foster kids. I would say in terms of our foster care system, there are many things that could be improved. Today we definitely have a shortage of appropriate placements. We need more foster parents. We need to have more well-trained foster parents. We need to have more services. We need to have more programs for youth that are coming into the foster care system that is not just a program that takes them from a bad environment into a safe environment, but also invests in children in terms of education, in terms of basic life skills, in terms of, just think about what we teach our kids on a daily basis.
Right.
I teach my kids, no, this is not okay. No, that's, this is how you behave. This is how you manage money. This is how you clean your room. This is how you eat healthy. This is how you fix something around the house. Foster kids don't have the benefit of that. If we could have programs where we teach them basic life skills and think ahead of them transitioning to adulthood, think about what they will need to have as they grow up, and how do we replace that stable adult that they don't have, and who would that person be that would teach them those basic skills. I think that would be tremendous improvement to our system. In addition, I would say that we could benefit from implementing a program for older youth. Our system is designed to assume that older youth are in a better position to remove themselves from an imminent harm situation because they are older, and yet I would say that older youth could be just as neglected as the little ones can. And so placing teenagers in a stranger foster home isn't necessarily the solution. We do need to listen to what kids have to say. We do need to listen, bring them in, give them a place at the table to discuss what is in their best interest, because older youth actually is able to articulate that better. They may identify an adult or somebody that could be that stable adult for them, or a placement that we haven't thought of, and put in a program in place, because they are more likely to be the candidates of foster kids that will be in foster care longer. They're more likely to not want to be adopted if they come in at an older age.
Right.
So we need to think outside the box. We really need to involve older youth and think about some creative programs for them.
So you think it'd be very beneficial for them to have a way of speaking how they feel, that they don't really get to say how they feel?
Absolutely, and this is what Children's Law Center of Minnesota does.
Yeah.
We represent children's express wishes. We are the voice of the foster child at the table. Whether it's in the best interest or not, most of the times it is, we are there to tell the judge and everyone else at the table that this is our child client's position. They want to go home. They don't want to go home. They want to visit their siblings, how often, the school's working, this placement is not working. Anything that the child feels or wishes, we are there providing that voice. And absolutely getting the child's buy-in to the decision that is being made for them, even if it's not the decision or the choice they wanted, is tremendous success, tremendous benefit to the child, because they're at the table and somebody heard them and somebody listened and brought value to what they have to say.
That's fantastic. Lilia, one of the things that was important to me when I was creating foster art is that it had a positive feel to it, that it was an empowering, because it's art, you already have kind of that funness to it, even though it's a very serious subject. But I also wanted it to be about not everything being horrific. I mean, the situations are horrific, but maybe the problem solving, having more of an upbeat tone and positive. Do you feel like there's some positive things being done with the foster care system or in foster homes? You tend to hear more about.
Yeah, overall I think so. Today the momentum is right. We have the momentum with the legislature, with the governor's task force that was assembled in a couple of years ago to reassess how the screening in of kids is being done. And right now we have the legislative task force that will continue to look at our child protection system. So we are all recognizing that more needs to be done in foster care or child protection system, and we are very hopeful and excited and optimistic that more positive change is coming. I would certainly say that investment in additional resources, recruiting additional foster parents, providing the services, not just for the children but for the parents as well. We cannot forget about the parents. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they just need support, sometimes they just need the services.
Sure.
I would say on a daily basis for Children's Law Center, some of the successes we have could be huge or could be little successes, but they're still successes and are positive outcomes. For example, our managing attorney, Ann Guenzes, had a case where her client's wisdom teeth were coming out and nobody was taking the child client to the dentist. So she argued in court and requested that the child go to a dentist and had their wisdom teeth removed, and that was great. And who knows, without the Children's Law Center attorney, that might not have happened. On the greater scale, of course, some of the most successful stories for us are when children are reunified with their families, when the parents have had an opportunity to work their case plan, received the services, accepted the services, have improved their parenting capacity, and the children are reunified. That's the goal.
Isn't that the ultimate goal?
That is always the
every
ultimate
case,
goal.
the first goal.
It is the first goal, but it's not always possible, unfortunately. So for those cases where children are not reunified with their parents, I would say, of course, another successful outcome would be they're placed with a relative, which is an appropriate placement, or, of course, adopted at a placement or in the family of the child's choice. Those are always great.
Well, speaking of awareness, what I've kind of looked at the life of foster children is, and this is kind of an analogy with the floods in Louisiana.
Sure.
There's this crisis.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, everybody in the country says these families are in crisis, and everybody pools their resources, whether it's money, time, cards, because we don't want a family to go through a crisis. And you see it with there's a healthcare problem in a family, and it's awesome. That's what we do as human beings, as Americans. I consider children without a loving, secure home a crisis in their life, a severe crisis, and yet it doesn't seem to have the same attention that a natural disaster has or anything like this. So one of the missions of my company is to help promote just general awareness in the general population.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping that we can make it just more of a dialogue in people's households where people can talk about children without families, and just little things like you said, whether it's going to the dentist or buying a painting from us or being a foster parent. There's all different levels.
It is a crisis. It's definitely
Yeah, it
racist, I
is,
would
and
say.
it's not really treated like that by the general population, I don't feel
It's
like.
not. I think unfortunately what we have is our community has accepted the notion of foster care to prison pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
That foster children are bad children, that foster children have done something bad. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people explaining to them that I'm an attorney for foster kids, and sometimes I'm asked, well, are you defending them? There's nothing to defend them from. They've done nothing wrong. And so I think educating our community on the fact that foster kids are our kids, especially if they're state wards. That means the state is their parent. They have no parents any
And we're
longer.
citizens of that state.
Correct. And educating them on the fact that there is the misconception of foster care system being good, perfect, working well, and helping them understand that without one stable adult in their lives, these children are lost. These children have no one to encourage them, to tell them that there is hope, to tell them that they can be successful in life, to tell them that they can graduate from high school, to tell them that they've done nothing wrong, to teach them basic things. That's something that we sometimes take for granted because we probably had it, right? You and I probably had it. Foster kids don't have it, and we cannot underestimate the value of having somebody that's there for them, somebody that is there every day to answer simple questions, to encourage, to motivate, to tell them that you believe in them. That's something we could definitely do more of.
So how would a person do that is not in the position to become a foster parent or adopt a child? That's what I'm trying to think of with my company, is how we can get the general population to maybe find a little way here and there to help.
Being a foster parent or adopting is not for everyone.
Right.
And so one of the things, and I would say there are many things in which we can get involved if it's not being a foster parent or adopting. I would say volunteer your time. There are many great organizations that have boots on the ground, working with foster care children, providing the services that they need, doing foster art, creative, outside the box. Call these organizations and see what you can do for them. You can volunteer your time, even if it's to help with the fundraising event. Still very helpful. I would also say help spread the word, help educate our community on the needs of foster care youth, help understand the community that these children have done nothing wrong, that we all have a responsibility to ensure that they have a bright future, that we all understand that they are our future generation. And of course, donate time and money if you can, because most of these organizations are nonprofit organizations that rely on contributions from individuals or organizations, and so this is how we are in the stay in business, is by fundraising and doing the work that we're doing, which I believe is tremendous and necessary work.
Well, it's very inspiring for me because as I think about having my workshops with the kids and they come and they paint, and they're from all walks of life, definitely children that have stable families. But it makes me realize I want to bring more to the workshops for the parents to take away, that their kids just aren't having fun painting, but there is a lot behind this.
I will share with you.
Be more aware.
Yeah, I will share with you that having worked at Children's Law Center for over 3 years now, one of the things that I realized is that I am definitely a better mom to my children. I would say that my children are much more aware now of the perspective of what they have and what other children don't. And my children have done some fundraising as well. They sold their art in our driveway for Children's Law Center.
There you go.
They've done that, and they've also actually nominated Children's Law Center at their school to receive a grant that students raised at their bazaar for the cause of Children's Law Center. So I am here educating the community, that's my job, but also through my kids, directly or indirectly, spreading the word and helping others understand that foster kids are out there. They are, they're among us, they're among my kids' classmates, right? And so they're not invisible.
What is the average age of a foster care child in the United States? Is there an average age?
For our clients,
In
our
Minnesota.
average age is 12.
Oh, wow.
Now, we represent children who are 10 through 21,
Okay.
and so our average child is 12. That also is because when children first come in, we have more kids at the front end where the county is still deciding whether they will reunify with the parents or they will terminate parental rights. So we see a lot of younger kids in that bracket of process where we're still determining what the permanency outcome will be. And then one of the greatest things Children's Law Center of Minnesota does is that once we get a child client as a client, we stay with that child client for the duration of the case. And that may mean up to 11 years.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So
That's
we
great.
will be with that child client for up to 11 years. If we get a child at the age of 10, we will stay with them through the age of 21 should they age out of the system without being reunified or adopted. And that means, as you can imagine, visiting with the child client at least once a month, attending all of the court hearings. For years. As well as we have volunteer attorneys that go to school and attend school meetings. They call social workers, guardian ad litems. They do all of this fantastic work behind the scenes as well, and then they also attend the court hearings. They file motions, they file pleadings, whatever needs to be done. They're truly, truly amazing advocates.
I've had the opportunity to go to a couple of your annual functions in the fall. Is it the fundraiser?
Yes, this year it's October 13th.
Yes, and I did talk to a few of the lawyers that did the pro bono work, and I could just tell when they talked that they almost had to harness themselves from like going grocery shopping for the child or taking them home. I mean,
yes,
they get it because it's their work, and then where's the line where you don't get too involved, but you could just tell the joy that they got out of it. I was amazed when I talked to them. It's almost like they just couldn't stop doing things that really weren't included in the description.
Right, and
of their
because
position.
for us it's so basic, all sometimes they're doing is being there for the child client, answering that phone call, calling, checking in on them, saying you're doing well, what do you need? We do this with our kids all the time. For foster kids, they don't have that as much, if at all.
Well, when I started foster, people asked me if I had been in foster care myself, and so now I want to make a difference. And my answer is the exact opposite. I'm so grateful for the incredible upbringing I got to have, and then when I was able to give my child, that when she went off to college, I really, for some reason, felt this tremendous gratitude. And I thought about her going out into the world and all the kids who didn't get the guidance she did. And she had some rough years of her own, but we got through it. And so my fuel is gratitude for what I have. And so I think that's something that you can tap into for people for awareness. Like you're showing your children are the next generation also.
Yes.
But they're being raised with this gratitude and this perspective. And they'll be the adults that make differences.
Absolutely.
And the
perspective.
That's what we want to feed the kids doing the art, is that they start going home with this awareness, just a little awareness that they didn't have,
And
that we'll start to see.
The other thing I would say, a few years ago, my son told me, PlayStation 4 came out, and I only have PlayStation 3, and all my buddies at school have PlayStation 4.
Right.
And the discussion that him and I had it was just great about, do you understand? Do you have a perspective? Can I tell you about some of the clients I work with, and what you're asking for, how far disconnected that is from reality, and how lucky you are to even have a PlayStation 3, that some kids don't have any of it. Kids that are coming into foster care system, I think I mentioned earlier, will be lucky if some of their belongings are thrown in a garbage bag.
When they leave their home.
When they leave their home. They have what they would like to have, obviously. Sometimes they're toys, their pictures, their favorite book, their journal. Oftentimes none of that follows them. And
Nor their siblings.
Or their siblings as well. So we have a couple of great organizations that have connected with Children's Law Center, and every year we receive in-kind contributions of brand new duffel bags. And
Yeah,
so
I've heard of that.
when our social worker goes to meet a child client that we're first appointed to, she gives them a duffel bag and so they no longer have to move in garbage bags. And we recently received another in-kind contribution where every duffel bag was stuffed with a blanket, a teddy bear, a water bottle, crayons, coloring book, and a few other things that are just complete basics. And our social worker who studies has started giving those out to our child clients, and it just brings them so much joy.
Well, there's an answer right there of how people can help. Whether you want to help stuff the duffel bags, donate the toys, the duffel bags, so things like that. So if people want to do that, would they just Google helping foster kids, or there's things on your website?
They can make donations to the agencies themselves as well, or they can give us a call at Children's Law Center in Minnesota, and we will figure it out.
Yeah, sure.
It's great. I mean, sometimes I know St. Paul Public Schools does a drive every fall for winter coats. That's a big issue for foster kids as well.
Sure.
Again,
Everything is a big
we take
issue.
it for granted. My kids have coats. Foster kids that don't have coats, boots, basic stuff, toothbrush, toothpaste, simple things.
So when you're small, that's one thing, but as you become a teenager, life gets more complicated in the best of circumstances. So when you become a teenager and you're still in the foster care system, and you probably won't be getting adopted, whether you don't want to be or you don't find the right family, what do you think the biggest obstacles are for those late teen age kids?
I would definitely say the trauma that's following them, that definitely has a lifelong effect on them. I think making sure that the biggest thing I would say is we need to listen to what they have to say. We really need to listen to what they think is in their best interest. And then whatever it is that they're saying, we can compromise and negotiate, and we can find a solution for them. We can't just place them in a foster home or in an adoptive placement where they don't want to be. It is going to disrupt. It's not going to work. We need to work with these youth and listen to what they have to say.
Well, I think it's like any teenager. You can't let them make all their decisions because they're going to tell you what they want, but you know that some things would be better for them. So it's a balancing act, is what you're saying.
I would say listening to what they have to say as a first step, and then let's negotiate. Let's reason with them and say, all right, maybe not quite that outcome. Probably the judge is not going to rule that way, but if he or she doesn't, what's your plan B? What is another solution? Or how can we meet you halfway?
But I think just listening to them is a gift that they haven't been given much in their life anyway.
Correct.
Can you imagine not being heard ever when
you're
in pain or you're sad or you're hungry?
Absolutely.
So just listening.
It's
just got to feel good for them.
And having their lawyer at the table saying, Judge, this is what my client wants.
Fantastic.
This is their position. A lawyer doing this for you. It's tremendous.
Well, Children's Law Center of Minnesota does fantastic work, obviously, but personally, how does it make you feel when you know that you're at work every day?
It's great. I have amazing staff. The passion, the dedication that they bring to the table, the experience, the expertise is just amazing. Personally, I would say rewarding would be an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
It's really knowing that we're not just making a difference, but we are continuing to grow the awareness. We are continuing to bring more people in that make the difference. We're involving more people. We're also oftentimes working with legislators and community leaders to make sure that our best practices and laws are most favorable to foster care youth. So that holistic approach, looking at this group of children that need every single kind of help they can get, that's what we're doing. And yes, that makes me feel great. Leading this organization is just an honor.
Well, Minnesota's lucky to have you and the Children's Law Center. And so at Foster Art, we're going to do our best to keep promoting awareness.
Thank you.
And find creative ways that families can get involved in helping these kids.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Susan. And you are doing fantastic work as well. Creative, something that involves not just adults but kids as well.
Well, they are the next generation. They're the same age as these children.
They are, exactly.
So we have to work together eventually.
Phenomenal work.
Thanks. Hearing what Lilia has to say about foster youth in Minnesota and the whole country, we invite you to join in, be aware, try to make a difference, and you can do that by contacting the Children's Law Center of Minnesota.
I appreciate the opportunity to share the stories and some of the things that Children's Law Center does. I would encourage every one of you to assist us in helping spread awareness about foster kids. And I would also encourage you to give us a call at Children's Law Center and inquire about the work that we're doing. We would be more than happy to chat with you. We would be more than happy to meet with you and tell you more about our work. Thank you.